if you look at the front end of this sketch, we have something very interesting going on here. I want you to remember what this front end looks like, and then when we compare it to the production version. There is finally a C63 AMG. I've been waiting a long time for this. I actually made a redesign of the C43 and kind of figuring out what the C63 could look like, and I think I got pretty close. It wasn't really a difficult redesign to do, looking at other 63 models look like. I just added that kind of styling onto the C43. I think it looks pretty good. However, I do think there could be some changes, and I think Mercedes were on the right track in the beginning because they had those features that I want to see in their sketches. I'm going to show you that in just a second, and then compare it to the C43, which I think is an unnecessary model. I made a full video on that earlier here on the channel. I'm going to link that down in the description if you want to hear my thoughts on the C43 AMG. And if you're wondering why this office looks a little different, that's because we've spent the last 3 days driving from Florida to Colorado. So I now live in Colorado, and it's a little bit rainier, a little colder, but I absolutely love it. So you can expect the look of this office to evolve over the coming week. Let's go back to the Mercedes here. Let's talk about some of the spec and tech first before we jump into the design. So as you know, I'm sure everybody knows this. There is no V8 for this version, the 2023 model. They cut that in half, and now we have a turbocharged inline 4-cylinder instead, and it's a plug-in hybrid, and it pumps out an additional 168 horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque, more compared to the previous V8 model. And combined with this electric motor, this 2023 C63 S generates a total of 671 horsepower and 752 pound-feet of torque. And AMG, they claim that it will accelerate to 60 miles per hour in just 3.3 seconds, which I think sounds pretty high. I thought it was going to be around 3 seconds with all this power, and you also have four-wheel drive, so that you have the traction for it, but 3.3 seconds is pretty good still. And the top speed, if you choose the unlimited version, is going to be 175 miles per hour, and it can also go 8 miles on pure electricity, which is crazy to think about when you have the C63 logo and you just hear it go by silently. Something just doesn't connect. And the gearbox is AMG's 9-speed automatic, sending the power to all four wheels, and that so does the electric motor. So for the sound here, I think the sound has been, AMG to me has always been about sound and just raw power, not maybe so much precision driving. That's more of an M department. And I think that's one thing that I'm not so sure about in the 4-cylinder here, because you have artificial sound effects which are transmitted into the cabin, obviously, but also you have speakers on the outside for the people that see you drive by. They actually are not hearing the engine only, they also hear some artificial speaker noise, which feels a little weird for a C63 AMG. I don't know. I think I would rather have it be just play the natural sound of what engine is in it. If it is a 2-liter inline 4 turbo plug-in hybrid with an electric motor, just let me hear that noise, and you don't have to make it artificial. I've never been a fan of that, and I don't think I ever will be. You can have it with 19 or 20-inch wheels, and I guess you already know which one I would go for in that case. Obviously the 20-inch, because bigger wheels most of the time look better, specifically if you have that option from factory. So I want to show you some of the sketches here of this. This is the general new C-Class, and then I'm going to show you the C63 compared to the C43. What I love about this sketch, if you look at the front end of this sketch, we have something very interesting going on here. I want you to remember what this front end looks like, and then when we compare it to the production version, we have these headlights which look pretty much identical to the production version. We have the lower intake, same thing here, very close to what they actually went with in the production. Then we have this grille. Look at the outline of the grille here. It looks almost like the old version or the previous C-Class. which has almost like a smiling grille. I know I've talked about this before, but I just have to bring it up here because it looks like this is actually the direction that Mercedes was trying to go for a little bit at least before they decided on a final design. I love this sharp shoulder line that we have going from the rear end all the way into the corner of the headlight, and that we have this line at the bottom intact from the previous generation. The new taillights are a lot slimmer than they were in the previous generation, which looks almost like a rectangle like this, which I really loved in the old C-Class. I think they looked fantastic in the sedan. I also like the slimmer version in the previous coupe. They also added some width to the rear end in addition to the widened stance all over and the widened fender of the coupe. Now looking at the interior, we now have two screens, as you can see right here. More on this in a minute. So let's jump into that right now. Let's have a look at the C63, which you have up top, and you have the C43 down at the bottom. So I took this design and I redesigned it a few months back, I think it was in June or something like that, to the C63, and this is what I thought they were gonna do. Just put a lower part of the new C63 that is very similar to the rest of the C63 models Mercedes have in their lineup. They're kind of predictable like that, Mercedes, but I want to focus on this, the grille. Look at the sketch here, look at the outline of the grille. We have a angle going down, but then we have it turning almost in the middle, a little bit higher than the midpoint of the grille, and then going back down inwards towards the center point of the front end. But we don't have that in the production version. Instead, we have this line, and then it continues going down and pointing outwards toward the outside in the corners of the front end. It never goes back in like we had in the sketch. I really hope that Mercedes will keep this design that they had in the sketch, because I think it just looks more elegant. Mercedes to me has always been about elegant confidence, I would say. It's not supposed to be too aggressive. That's not Mercedes to me, that's more BMW. So this looks like it just looks angry, and it lost the elegance that I loved in the previous generation of the C-Class. So comparing this to the C43, there really aren't a lot of changes between these two cars when it comes to the design. Nothing really in the side except for this air vent in the C63. And then we have some hood vents here, which I really think looks good and adds some more muscle to the C63 compared to the 43, which has a pretty standard looking hood. It looks really good, but I wish just they switched out this grille to what we had right here in this sketch. To me, that feels more Mercedes. So looking at the rear view, what are the differences here from the C63 to the C43? Well, the big difference, as you can see, we have a big spoiler here that sits on top of the deck lid. We have a smaller one on the C43, and honestly, I think in this case, I prefer this little lip spoiler that we have on the C43. I think this looks maybe a little too aggressive for a Mercedes C-Class. That's just my opinion. I prefer it to be a little more subtle like this, but still, I would like to have this in black. I think that would look really good. And we also have different exhaust. One easy way to tell which one you have is to look at the exhaust, because we have these rectangular exhausts down here instead of the round ones, both quad but round ones on the C43 and rectangular ones on the C63. We also have an added, I guess, carbon fiber piece here. This is one piece that I don't know, it's still there on the regular C-Class, which I don't understand why Mercedes is putting this slot air. I think it's maybe it's functional. I doubt it is. I would like to have this be exclusive for the C63. So looking at the interior, they obviously look very similar. We have the C63 up top and the C43 at the bottom. What I think about this interior is we do have an iPad just stuck on the dash. I do wish we had a housing for it. I've said that before as well. It just makes it less clinical and feel more warm and homey. But at the same time, it's pretty well integrated in the dash, I would say. I do like the overall proportions here with these lines going into the middle and creating sort of a waterfall. One little detail that's kind of annoying here is the screen angle. So look at this screen in the center. It's slightly angled by a few degrees to face the driver. You know, it's one of these things that you don't know if it's intentional. Is it a quality issue, or what is this? Because it's so subtle that I just want to take the screen and twist it back to be centered. Either have it be more angled or have it centered, not something in between that it lacks confidence. It doesn't really know what the position is supposed to be. But we still have the same kind of feeling in both of these interiors. Generally, it just feels like a high quality interior. So if I were to pick a C-Class right now, which one I would buy, I would definitely buy the previous generation C-Class, because I think it looks better. First of all, I love the line flow in the sedan. I love it even more in the coupe. It's just a stunning, elegant, classy looking car, specifically with the grille looking more traditional Mercedes-like with these angles in the outline. Then we have the same angles following in the headlights, so these two angles connect here beautifully, and we have this smiley face in the lower part, kind of like a subtle smile, nothing too aggressive, but it still looks beautiful and elegant in the front end. And you can see that this line goes into the corner of the headlight, and we still have this line that we have in the new one as well. But looking at the coupe, this is my favorite C-Class in a very, very long time. The previous generation C coupe, specifically the AMG model, which they beefed up the fenders, so they widened the fenders. And the thing is, if you own one of these right now, if I was the owner of a C63 previous generation, I would hold on to that car, because I think the value of that is going to spike when the new C63 drops. I think people still can't really comprehend that the new C63 is a 4-cylinder hybrid, so I think the demand for these older V8 brute force C63s, I think people are gonna look for them more, and the demand is gonna go up, and so are the values of these cars. Overall, I think it's a great job by Mercedes to do what they can with all these new regulations and put some F1 technology into the new C-Class and blow everybody in the rest of the competition out of the water when it comes to power. However, final thoughts, if I was looking for a C63, I would definitely go with the old V8.